What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nerd Den.
The shit show.
It's Friday. And we are here. Man, it's been a good week. And, I think there's going to be some good stuff to talk about. I'm going to pull up some stuff on Twitter. We'll have some good Twitter stuff, I think. Andrew isn't here. So
thank God.
This would be the time to celebrate. And anyone who wants to talk shit about Andrew, now would be the time because he's on a cruise and he can't do anything about it. Jazz, MK says jazz hands when you see that. That's fine.
Although I forgot to post to Twitter here. I'm gonna post the link to the show and say if you're over 40 and lonely, come join the rest of us on Nerd
Den. Do it.
I prefer saying mean things about Andrew to his face because I like that hurt look he gets in his eyes. I like crushing his soul in person.
100% soul crushing. Did we see while we're setting up? Did we see? How many people, I should say, saw the chair of the economic advisory board, like the main guy responsible for our policy, not be able to answer basic questions about economics? Did we all? Who saw that? Raise your hand. No.
No. Is it good?
Oh,
dude.
Okay. We will play that tonight.
I mean, it's good, but it's bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. And this is like, I mean, it's not even about politics. It's just like this guy just doesn't know his job, man. Like, it's pretty batshit.
I want to see it. I want to see.
Yeah. We will totally. I'm gonna pull it up. We got some other things. Let's see. There are some stuff I wish I could share, but I also don't want to get in trouble with we always spend a little bit of time beforehand airing it out and getting, as we say in my house, getting the wiggles out. This thing is crazy. What else happened, man? I've got some original art to show, some comic stuff. I have been very recently, I mean within the last 2 days, re-looking at Rob Liefeld, X-Force and Youngblood, and I think I'm still mystified by this guy because he's not a good illustrator, but he was like one of the top in the world. And so it's a mystery, and I think I've cracked yet another piece of the code.
It's fun and dynamic. That's why people like it.
Yeah, and
that's why.
Yep, for sure. We should jump in. What do you guys want to start? Do you want to start? Should we look at this economic guy first?
Sure.
Start at the deep end. Let's start at the deep end. So we have. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, KG in the house.
Hey, what up, KG?
Yo,
you're just in time.
Always in time.
Give me a second. I got to step away for about 2 minutes. But when I get back, I'm going to have stuff to show you when you're ready.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. All right. So this is a fucking shit show. This guy, so I'm just going to read this. This is absolutely priceless and probably the most frightening clip you'll ever watch on the people in charge of the U.S. economy. Jared Bernstein is literally the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, the main agency advising Biden on economic policy. So this guy is quite literally in charge of pushing economic policy in the United States today. I'm going to go wide. and make sure that you can let me. I think it'll be fine. All right, let's see here.
Can't hear it.
Can't hear it. Okay, good job. Good job.
It looks
Todd.
like you're just muted though. Are you muted?
Yeah,
it might have been muted, man.
Oh,
Yeah, like the because if you look on Twitter, it might have just been auto mute.
oh, maybe.
Check that.
Let's see. Try it again, real quick.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, sell bonds, right? Since they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
Bro. If that is not,
we're all fucked.
Yeah.
If that
That's
is
what
not,
that means. We're fucked.
if that is not the clearest case for Bitcoin and crypto, I do not know what is. If that is not the biggest, like, we should be doing crypto and Bitcoin, like, what are we doing?
It is supreme ineptitude.
MK says this would go better with Benny Hill music. Dude, for real.
Fiat is a scam.
Oh my Lord. I mean, and there's charts. This video went super viral. I mean, mega viral. It's got 8.6 million views. And then of course it got reshared and split off. And I mean, millions of people saw this. And since then, like, this is just today, there's been tons of posts about the collapse of the dollar and like, here's all the charts we've been telling you for months and years and all that kind of stuff. MK says, packing my bags, when moon indeed. Yeah, dude, like I was shocked. I was, I think you always expect an argument, at least from like modern monetary theory versus Austrian economics, for whatever. Like, you can have that discussion. I mean, there's clearly a discussion that can be had, but to have the main guy in charge of economic policy, the Council of Economic Advisors, he's the number one guy on the Council of Advisors to the United States, and he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Like, he literally doesn't understand basic economics or his part in it. Is absolutely terrifying to me. What say you, Doc?
Horseshit. Well, first of all, the government doesn't print any money. The Federal Reserve prints the money. They issue that to depositories. Right. When the U.S. government needs to raise cash for whatever pretend shit they do, that's when they issue the Treasury bonds, and they work with the Department of Treasury and the Federal Reserve work together to do that shit. Give me a job. Did I pass the interview? Did I do it?
You would do better than him.
This is true.
It's all horseshit and it's all pretend.
Yeah, it really.
The only
is.
good thing about cash is the anonymity of using it right? And
Yeah,
not having
yeah.
your purchases tracked. That's why cash is still king, even though the paper it's printed on is worthless, right?
Yeah.
There's no difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill, except for the doodles. It's the same shit. We just all agree on it that one holds value over the other. So it's it's horrible and it's terrible, and nobody seems to care. In the EU right now, just read this as well. You know, they already have this thing where it's part of it has to do with crypto wallets and self-custody wallets with transactions over X amount, but that also includes cash too. Here's the new thing they want to do, which is so for every phone in the EU that is produced or delivered there, whatever, they want to have a piece of software that continually scans. It has a list of loaded things, right? That continually scans your phone for like hot words, especially about like, what's the acronym? CSA, like child, bad stuff, right? Okay. Images.
Well, that's what they
text.
always, that's the excuse they always give.
That's always the excuse. Same thing Elizabeth Warren just did with her big Bitcoin thing the other day, saying that Bitcoin's the #1 facilitator of all this stuff or whatever. Well, here's the thing. It's scary for a lot of reasons. One, it's scary because of the privacy, the absolute, like, you couldn't do it here. Thank God for the Constitution. At least I hope so. But it's also scary because this AI that they're trying to like run this stuff to, AI is not smart like that. It's going to misidentify people just like it does with every other system, with every other social media, whatever. And like good people are going to get like their doors kicked in, whether eating dinner with the family because, whatever. They were sick and wanted a hot toddy and it thought they said a hot toddler or some stupid shit like that, right? I mean, like that's the level of like just insipidness that everything's coming to, and nobody seems to give a shit.
Right.
Nobody seems to care at all. And we're getting closer to this point where it's like you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
Scary.
It's really scary, man. Yeah. What do you think, Avery?
I think they won't kick the door in while you're at dinner. They wait till the middle of the night when you're asleep so they can kill you.
That's also true. That's true.
Yeah. What scares me is like with the crazy shit that I see is like, and I'm not suggesting. I mean, this is absolutely happening now, but I think it's like everything from Hollywood to politics. I remember hearing the story years ago about how the Mexican mafia works, and one of the tools that they use is they will break into your house at night. You're sleeping while your family is asleep, and they'll of course quiet the family or tie them up. And while you're in bed, they put a gun to your head, and it's literally, they have a phrase for it. It's quite literally called lead or gold, meaning you have two options. They're going to put a bullet in your head right then and there, right, and probably kill your family too, or you're going to take this bag of money and do exactly what they said.
Mm-hmm.
Right, lead or gold, and you see that throughout everything. I mean, you see it. I mean, with all the Hollywood stuff, with like P. Diddy and all that shit, like that's all a form of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone's recording you, if you're spiking your drink and recording you doing some stuff you shouldn't do, that would embarrass you, your family, ruin your career, whatever. That's the lead, right? And so you take the gold and you become rich and famous, but you're completely beholden to the whim of somebody else, right? It's absolutely it's crazy. It's really nuts, man.
It's scary, man.
It really is. It's absolutely batshit, and it's really like, yeah, it's terrifying. It's we just got to deal with the hand we were dealt, and we got to kind of work on shit, I think. And I think it's one of the reasons why I keep working so hard, and I know we all keep working so hard, is because it's gonna, I think we all know it's gonna come to a head at some point, and I think it's up to us to kind of.
Yeah, we're gonna buy Adult Fantasy Island.
Oh, I like that.
Drew can greet people off the plane. The plane.
The plane.
What was it? His name's Tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is I think Mike Barron, who is a writer, had it best, and I know goes a little political, but this is kind of what we're talking about, so it's related, and then I'll get off my high horse about it. But it's pretty funny.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good, right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, because he offered that. He's trying to push that 50% tax. Anyway,
wait. Before we get off politics, do you want to see? We were talking off camera, and Zach says about Epstein didn't kill himself. Do you want to see the immortal Epstein Andrew Jackson mashup here?
Oh shit!
Dun dun dun.
Sure.
He's immortal. What? Look at this. The internet sleuths have done it again.
I love these bullshit things where they randomly select small parts of the body and they're just like, oh, look, he has the exact same thing.
He's the only person with folds in his age creases in his face.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ever lived.
It's amazing how identical a human being can look to an engraved etching.
Yeah. So
like I was saying before, Epstein didn't kill himself. He's alive. He's alive and living with the lizard people.
MK says looks legit.
Do you? While I have my screen up, do you guys? I teased something in the server. It is my idea for adult fantasy swag and merch for like conferences. Okay, so listen. When is this? Am I still going to be? Oh wait, hold on. I'll have to switch screens here. Hold on.
Go for it.
So, I was with my daughter the other day, and we were at Walmart or whatever, and she got some. Well, so let me back up. I was at a conference with the Nemots once, and they had like all this cool stuff at their booth. There's like candy and yo-yos and like fun, goofy, weird, cool stuff. Nostalgia, right? Comic books. And I was at Walmart with my daughter, and she like had she wanted to get a bunch of temporary tattoos. And I was like, and then I was thinking today, I was like, man, that would be cool. So I took about 25 minutes of my life today, guys. And I just want to show you what I came up with for the adult fantasy temporary tattoos. It will be in stores soon. Pick them up at a booth. All right, pop me up there, big dog.
All right, let's do it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's an adult fantasy temporary tramp stamp.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
What do you think about that?
I think it's absolute gold.
It absolutely works too. Look at Andrew. That's the face. That's
I went through a lot of his videos from Misfits Corner trying to find anything where he looked like he was trying to cop a feel. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the face of a newly retired middle-aged man who doesn't know if he should grab that or it might be his daughter. He's not sure.
Wow. So let's get those printed up, shall we?
Oh,
this is
perfect,
man. This is brilliant. Hold on. I'm gonna have to show Andrew that. KG says, "How much do I have to pay to have Andrew get this?" Well, here's the problem, KG, is that I don't think there's a problem in him getting it. I think you'll have a problem once he shows it to you.
Yeah, psychological problem.
I think you should be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, it's not the amount of money it would cost to pay Andrew to get the tattoo and to have the tattoo done. It's how much it's going to cost you in therapy once you see it.
Yeah, exactly. I did
because
also,
that shit's forever.
Speaking, MK says smack that. True that. Yeah. So speaking of which, I did actually see a toy that would be really good for adult fantasy as well. So I'm gonna tee off of what Doc was saying. Let me know what you guys think of this. So this is
Oh my god, I saw this.
this is a nice Jesus transformer.
I've seen it. It's
you've seen this?
funny. Yeah, it's old. It's kind of it is kind of funny.
Oh man, I just discovered this today. Bro, that's pretty awesome. It's almost as good as I have a Triceratops that I've deemed Triceracock because the people designed it and the head of the Triceratops goes right on the crotch.
Wow.
It's really funny. It's like a knockoff Transformer.
Yeah.
Dusty hovering over the dump button.
I like the fact that this transforms and kind of looks like a crusader.
Right. Well, isn't that what it is? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying bring back the kingdom of Jerusalem.
You're just ready. You're just ready to clean house.
Yeah.
Coop's a good shit poster, man, on Twitter that posted that. We need to get him on here sometime. Speaking of transforming, so you know they have that awesome self-transforming Optimus Prime bot. Well, now they have that. Now they have Megatron too.
Yeah.
And they battle each other.
Oh, I haven't seen the battle yet. Just so you know, that battle right there is like $400.
Dude, that's
No,
$2,500.
Yeah. They're $1,200 each, $1,000 if you pre-ordered.
Wow, that's awesome.
You can't hear it, but they're playing the music from the cartoon, like the battle scene music. Can you hear it?
Yeah, they're like blocking and shit.
There's a Grimlock. There's a Bumblebee, but he
Grimlock
doesn't
too.
transform. But he talks and moves.
Oh my god, so crazy! In another year, they'll actually like team up against you with like the AI.
Like your kids' toys play with it themselves now.
Yeah, they don't need you.
Yeah.
Oh, he got shot. Oh, that's awesome, dude!
So
the whole
badass,
battle.
man.
That's so cool. I didn't know the battle would actually end. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a result. And I wonder if it's the same result every time. It'd be cool if it was randomized, like points to hit or something.
Yeah.
Oh my
Paying
gosh.
$1,000 probably, man. Yeah, there's
And
a lot of
they have controls that you can use on your cell phone. Like there's an app.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's an app that goes with them.
Now, if it only had like a voice cloning thing, you could type shit in, and Optimus Prime could be like, "Show me your titties."
Let's see. MK says, okay, who had small soldiers on their bingo card for coming to fruition before hoverboards?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm still waiting for my hoverboard. I don't know why that we don't have those. It's like they have I mean, all the drones, they have the technology. Maybe it's just the control, like they can't float 10 feet off the ground. They go 100
I mean,
feet
you'd
off.
have to like, what's the terminology?
There is somebody that worked.
Magneticism.
Yeah, there is somebody that worked it out magnetically. It's, I don't know. I think they're super expensive to make. Is the problem?
Superconductive material. You have to have shit like absolute zero freezing for superconductive material.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, you couldn't power it.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem.
He says Tony Hawk. MK says Tony Hawk did one on a mass piece of copper. That's cool.
Oh yeah, I remember that video. Yeah, I remember that. That was
where he just like
good.
he just put a magnet basically.
They tricked everybody. It looked really good a few years ago, and he's like, "Guys, this is what you've been waiting for." And they put out a whole video of him like doing tricks on a like half pipe with the the hoverboard, and it like looked
It-
like good.
is it-
They had a fake
is it-
pre-order site and everything.
Is it true that Tony Hawk's son married Kurt Cobain's daughter?
I think so. I think actually I saw that.
That's
Recently.
that's like the most '90s thing I've ever heard.
That's true. That's true.
That's 1990s royalty, like getting married.
Yeah.
That's
Oh my
crazy.
god.
That just makes me feel old. But
Yeah.
it's true. But well, I noticed this too, and I
Have
know,
you seen the
I know
Tony
Zach
Hawk?
has-
What makes me feel old is are those commercials with Tony Hawk for CoQ10. For your to take because your cholesterol medicine depletes your CoQ10 levels, but it's Tony Hawk. I'm like, what the fuck?
I haven't seen that.
Yes, I've seen them. Look it up. CoQ10 commercials with Tony Hawk.
We're gonna have to. Doc, pull that up because we gotta at least we can't pull the audio, but we can look at it. Check this out too. This is something that's really cool. Movement in animation for independent animators. So this is all AI, but it's all shot on video, right? But it's starting to get pretty good. I'll turn on. I think I can share the audio on this. Oh, the audio. There's no audio there, but that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. It's like
getting there.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that movie, A Scanner Darkly.
Yes.
That looks really good.
It
I
does.
wonder what models did they use to do that? Because that looks like almost like a transfer.
Well, what they're doing, I mean, this is all Stable Diffusion, and what they're doing is they're using a control net, and they're referencing audio, like an actual film, and I think it's frame by frame, and then they render the face, because you can see the face sometimes fades into a different style. That's all pretty good, but then there's like a couple points where the eyes get a little bigger, or it changes completely in one spot, like right there. You see it just kind of changes. But they're getting better, and like you can actually, if you look at the hands, like the hands you'll still see like 6 fingers on some points, right? But what I think is crazy, and what's from the animator and me, because I have a background in this, like, to me, the cool factor isn't the fact that they're doing this, is that it's already done. Meaning, I could render the shot out and just use the keyframes and drop all the other crap and just animate it, and you would have a pretty photorealistic animation that wouldn't look rotoscoped. Like, this is obviously totally human movement, right? But if you dropped out like 80% of the frames and just kept the keyframes on there and animated it, like you would have something that was pure anime. It would look really good. So I think we're going to see in the next 5 years, man, we're going to see so much animation. It's going to be an anime boom.
That's
the likes
awesome
of
though
which
for
we've
me.
never seen.
Bring it on.
Yeah, for real. Isn't that cool? So I love it, man. I get, we're in this weird place where like there's so many artists that just hate on this stuff so much. They're just like, oh, it's not real art. It's not real. AI is not art. AI artists are not artists. And, if you're using AI, then you're cheating. And I'm like, everyone's saying this is American.
Yeah.
Because you don't have this problem in any other country. The same people in the States that like hate on AI art or Midjourney or that, they're the same people that love manga and anime. And I'm like, you understand that manga, they use photographs and 3D models and rendering systems. Like the dude that did Naruto, he only drew like a couple of books. The other 50 volumes are all traced off of 3D models of his characters. He had a team of background artists and 3D modelers, and they would pose it, and he would trace it off in the style. because he
Yeah.
has to do fucking 5 pages a day. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah,
drawing
yeah.
5 pages a day
Yeah.
for like 25 years. Like
Dude, that
forever.
manga industry is brutal.
Brutal. Like they don't
Yeah,
even
not
get
to mention
understand.
for years, some
Yeah.
city scenes and forest scenes you've seen in anime and manga going back decades were zip patterns.
That's right.
Mhm.
Anything to cheat. It's not about cheating. It's about conserving your energy and getting the work done. Like, what does it take to get the work done? That is all it is about, and it drives me nuts. These, like these Americans are like, oh, it's not art, it's not real, it's cheating, and I'm like, man, you're just
Sure,
like,
give them a full setup with all the software installed in a computer, and tell them, go ahead, make something easy.
right, exactly. Go ahead, go for it. And well, you know what it is too that bothers me is like, you're basically telling the world that you suck, because you're literally telling me like, okay, let me get this straight. So if I've never done this, if I have never done concept art before,
Mhm.
and I have no artistic ability, I don't draw, I've never painted, I've never taken any class, you're telling me that by me messing around with an AI system, I can do better than you? Right? You have no other tool in your chest. You have no other ability,
Right.
right? You're telling me that is it. That you just suck that hard that you
Yeah.
can't you can't even figure out a way to incorporate this technology into whatever it is that you're doing.
Mhm.
You have just no concept of how it could actually maybe improve your speed or your deliverability. I mean, dude, the first thing that I thought of when AI started coming out, I was like, holy crap, I'm going to be able to do like 2 or 3x the
Yeah.
amount of work that I do now. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's going to take my job and it's going to draw like me and oh no, and it's not real. It was holy shit. Like I can actually like do what I wanted to do and do it better, faster, quicker, right? Like
Yeah.
I can do it faster and my quality can actually get better just
Mhm.
by learning and, again, like just in the world of photo reference, do you know if I need a city street in New York City, like I have to Google, like before Google, you would have to find a magazine or go to New York and take reference photos. And we
Mhm.
used to do that. We used to travel to different cities to take photos of the downtown area so that we had an image file,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
of different things.
Yeah, it was-
Andrews famously has a book of his New York trip and all the photos that he took when he was visiting me in New York. Half of them are city shots so that he could use them for comic reference, right? And then with Google image search, now you have Google image search, but that still doesn't guarantee the shot you want or the shot you need. Like, damn it, I need it from, I'm telling a story of a worm and I need a worm's eye view. So I'm looking really up at the city. Like, you're really stuck on someone else's photography. Well, with AI, I don't have to be stuck on somebody else's vision for a reference photo. It actually makes it more original. It's more original because I can be like, well, I don't want it that way. I want it this way, and not this way, but I want it this way. Oh, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I can use that as a reference and kind of get where I want. Like it's just such a baby argument, man.
It is stupid. Even for, and I know Zach's like, we've talked about AI writing and stuff like that, but I found this thing. I'll show it to you later. I want to show it to my daughter. Because, I've mentioned before, like she does like her art, my oldest. But she's also got this entire game world in her head, and writing is difficult for her. So I found this thing, and it was like it's a world builder for either story world building or like an RPG. So you make cards for things, and it has relationship diagrams that it makes. And then after a while, it starts prompting you and asking you questions like, what does Johnny like about living in the whatever thing I made, and do. So then you can just start slowly, because it's like you've got, she's got like 7 years of thinking of this thing in her head, right? And some sketches and maybe a couple things. No human is just going to be able to, right? So, but that AI assisted stuff is going to help her take those ideas out of her head and shape them into something cool.
Right. Totally. And she'll be able to do it, and she'll be able to do it in a competent way.
And organize it, and organize it in a meaningful way that she can then springboard off of, So like, yeah, they're stupid arguments, man. People are dumb-dumbs. Clearly.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Well, I got one thing in this vein, and then I'll take a break. And I know Zach, I have a couple things, but check this out. I'll show a couple more things and I'll take a break because I know Zach has some stuff too. But this is sort of a new technique. So do you guys know Krea AI?
Mm-hmm.
So Krea, I haven't used it in a minute.
Where do you think that booty came from for the
right on. Well, they have it's a real-time drawing software, right? Because it's all AI based, right? And the way that people were doing it before was using Krea AI as an overlay of a drawing in, like, say, Photoshop, so that when you drew in Photoshop, Krea would real-time render whatever it is you were doing. Well, this it's evolving even more to the point where you don't need, like, Photoshop. And so check this out. This is crazy. So this is it says, such a strange feeling to see brushstrokes, compositions, and color transform like this with AI as I paint. Almost like seeing worlds and images flow from the tip of the Wacom pencil. Done using Krea AI as an overlay over my painting software as I paint. The final zoom is a combination of Krea and magnific enhancements over the original sequence. So check this out. This is the future. This is the future of digital painting for sure. Like no question. And again, I know concept artists and everyone is like, oh, it's not art. I'm like, man, like, fuck off. Like you're opening a world to people who've always wanted to do this and couldn't do it. So why don't you
that's what I am, man.
Yeah. Just why don't
I want to get Adobe Paint and actually go and like, or not, what is it? It's not Adobe Paint. It's just the paint, the real bristle paint program. You know what I mean? But,
This is going to open the door for thousands of new creators, man. So just shut up and let it happen and help them out, Check this out. So this is sped up, of course, but he said it took him about 2 hours. Look at this. From the flower, he's just zooming out to the girl. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
2 hours. So I was just like, man, like, you're just really going to get. Funny enough, still to this day, comic book images and cartoon image, well, especially comic book images, is much harder than photorealism. Much harder. I think because of the variety of style, where realism is just real.
Yeah,
that's my impression. I don't really know, but so I wanted to share that because I just think, again, just like let it happen, and I'll tell you why. This is why. This is what happens. So this kid, MK says, my close friend uses this to add illustrations to his poetry. So grateful for it. Of course, like, why not open the door to? If you open the door to creativity, like, it's a surprising lack of imagination from people who have worked really hard on their talent. They're so afraid of their 10, 20, 30,000 hours of study going down the tubes. And it's such a lack of understanding of how advanced you already are. Like, when I started using Midjourney and started playing with AI tools just to fuck around, I was able to go so far so fast because I have 30 years experience doing stuff. I was able to approach it from a different angle rather than just like, oh, look, a person on a boat. Like, I was testing it with production level shit. Right. And I just started training stuff on my own style just to give me ideas. not even to use the final renders as production, but just to be like, oh yeah, I could do from this pose or that pose, or just as a sketching tool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good things you can do, man. It's just amazing. MK says it was fun playing with Midjourney during doing the S2 contest for AI. Yeah, for sure, man, and we want to do more. I love that kind of stuff. You know, if you're willing to play with Midjourney, or you're willing, again, the only problem is you have to pay for it unless you do like Stable Diffusion, but Stable Diffusion has a bigger learning curve. But it's so much fun, man, and I love sharing the process of it. But you would be amazed, like just sharing. If I was to go out and just say, hey, look, here's an AI process for Midjourney, like the hell that I would get from like these quote unquote professional comic book artists and illustrators, like it's like the witch trials. It's like the Salem witch trials for artists.
Oh, right.
It's hardcore. Like they're really like you're dog, blah. Like they'll literally try to destroy your career and cancel you over this shit. And I'm just like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, this is stupid. It makes no sense. And again, ultimately, they're just hurting themselves because while they're bitching and complaining, everybody else is learning it.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone just accepts that like it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
It's not going to, you know, like, and how AI is right now is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better.
That's what Sam Altman said today on a clip I just watched before I jumped in here. It was like ChatGPT is the worst AI. ChatGPT 4 is the worst AI you'll ever use.
Right, because it's improving. Because they already have the next version.
Yeah,
and it's only going to keep getting better and better and better. So it's always going to improve. It is awful now, even though it's incredible. Meaning, like you might as well get used to it. You might as well learn how to use it to your advantage, because like it is going to affect everything. So why not, what's going to happen is 5 years from now, when the next generation of kids are born into this, where they've learned to draw, but they know the AI stuff inside, outside, backwards and forwards. They're the kids that are going to take all the jobs from these old folks who like didn't do anything, didn't update their skill set. Like, oh, well, back in my day, typesetting is the way to go. Well, you know what? Photoshop came in and and like ended up using that. You know what I mean? The same, it doesn't erase anything. You just have to adapt to it. It's a tool. Like I saw it with 3D animation. I saw the same argument with Photoshop. I saw the same argument with Flash animation and digital animation. Like it's the same thing. It's the same conversation. You just have to like open up your mind a little bit and realize that you have the opportunity to grow as a creator and learn a new tool. That's it.
And if anything, you use that as a springboard to make yourself want to hone your skills traditionally. Like I come in, I want to ink, right? We talked about that the other day. Maybe I'm using some AI or like some like I'm just doing it digitally, right? And then I'm like, you know what? Now I kind of got this. I can delete, erase. I want to try the real thing. It's the same thing. You start to understand different styles. Maybe that might pique your interest into learning about different art periods and things like that, and you want to go further and learn how to paint. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it'll happen.
No, and it doesn't mean it also against my other complaint about the lack of foresight in this tool is like, yes, for some artists like the person we just saw, it's going to be beginning to end AI, and the final image is AI. It starts in AI. But for someone like me, what I'm really enjoying about this stuff again is I'm like, I'll sketch out my pages or sketch out my artwork, and I'm like, okay, I need a shot. I have this drawing, and I need a shot with a guy like this. Okay. And I can draw it, not a problem. But if I feed it through an AI system just to see what it churns out, sometimes it'll, just by having it resketch it a little bit, all of a sudden, instead of me drawing what I was going to draw is like this, all of a sudden it comes back and it's just like old school boxing or something. And I'm like, oh shit, that would actually be really kind of cool. Like instead of just like maybe this like it actually can give you a little bit of insight and maybe just a little bit of extra dynamicism just at the base level. So you're like, oh, maybe that's the way I'll attempt to draw it. And you're still drawing traditionally, you're still, inking it traditionally, it's still whatever it is, painting it traditionally, whatever you're doing, the final result can still be whatever you want. Like it doesn't have to be like there's a million things you can do with it. It doesn't have to be like I'm an AI artist and I just push buttons and make art. Like there's a million ways to use it, and it really bothers me that people are so close-minded about this stuff.
It's weird that I was just thinking about, like down the road, there's going to be someone who's like, I am a like early AI, artist enthusiast, where they're using like the old models where people have like hands and like dog heads and weird shit. I actually like that aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
I like the weird like pizza commercial thing where everyone's like there's actually, I wish I knew their name. I'd show you an artist that uses clearly newer technology but still keeps that aesthetic that I really, really enjoy on Twitter. I couldn't find him if I tried right now, but that's like it's like so weird. Like, well, I have an aficionado in the early period or whatever. Like, that's how it's gonna be, man.
Some of my favorite renders in Midjourney are from Midjourney 4.
Yeah.
They're on number 6 now, right? But like it's not the same renders. It's not, some of it's better, but some of it's worse, right? Yeah. And like, but when Midjourney 4 was the one where I could say a style kind of like Bob Smith. And I could kind of start to get, like they nuked that. Like you can't there is no point in putting an artist name in the prompt anymore because it doesn't work. Yeah. They have something called style reference now, so you can put a style and kind of reference it, but it's not. They've turfed a Midjourney specifically. Stable Diffusion hasn't, but Stable Diffusion is more complex. It's a longer ramp up time, but Midjourney's absolutely nerfed that shit. Like they have completely like crushed a lot of that stuff, man.
Yeah, but the people that are really get serious with it, they're all running local instances that they've got custom data sets that they've trained on and things like that, so they're able to go whichever direction they really want to.
That's eventually what I'd like to do, but I can't do it on a Mac. I need to have a dedicated PC for that.
Oh yeah, man, you got to have a good GPU with plenty of VRAM.
I have Stable Diffusion that runs local on my machine. Like I installed it and I've got all the stuff, but like for me to render an image takes like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, of course, when things are wrong or they're not doing well, it's like, this just sucks.
Yeah.
And I played with Think Diffusion, which is the cloud version of it, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. But here, I got something else. One more thing to show, and I'll take a break and shut up for a second. But this is why conversation is important. This is something I thought was really fucking cool. So. And this is pretty important, I think. And then by far, this is the future of creative arts. So this guy who made this video, he's a 19-year-old Harvard economics student, Wesley Wang. He spent 2+ years on a short film. He posted the 12-minute video on YouTube in September. Darren Aronofsky watches it in October and emails him, "Watched your film. Can you drop out of Harvard?" TriStar bought the rights, and Wang will adapt it for the big screen.
Really?
Yep. So,
wow.
I mean, this is literally there's him. There's the 12-minute thing. 4.3 million views. There's the email. Right? Can you drop out of Harvard? Right? And then there's the bidding war.
Wow.
Isn't that
crazy,
cool?
Man. That's awesome.
Crazy.
Isn't that cool?
God, it just gets you so. This is why the AI stuff gets me so excited, though, because now there's this like things like that. It's not going to be like a one-off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's going to be other people that have like just awesome stories. Like I would love for that to happen to my daughter. Right? Be like, oh man, you built this amazing world full of lore.
Exactly. And I I haven't watched it. I don't, but this is like a clip of it, I guess, or part of it, or a trailer for it. But like, it looks like some kind of crazy high school weird romp thing. Makes total sense.
There's got to be something weird to it. If
Darren
Aronofsky
Aronofsky,
wants,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be crazy. But it's like, it's professionally shot though. You see what I mean? Like he this is just just these kind of shots were not possible 5-10 years ago. Like the rendering and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So again,
That's
I don't
awesome.
know anything about it, but isn't that a cool story?
It's really
That's
cool.
just absolutely awesome. Let's see.
A romantic sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it later. But hey, Zach.
Don't think he's. Oh, there he is.
How's it going, man?
Monkeys are flying out of my butt.
Good.
I'm
Butt
kidding.
monkeys.
I'm kidding. They're not monkeys. They're chimpanzees.
There are other things flying out of
I
there.
really shouldn't have dropped acid before I logged on. So I'm kidding. It was shrooms, but no, I'm kidding. It wasn't shrooms. It was some weird stuff. Weird stuff I bought from a guy on the beach. He had really long blonde dreads and swore it was totally legal. So Todd, why do you have a large blinking eye in the center of your forehead? I'm just fucking with you guys. I'm actually depressingly sober right now. When unfortunately, when you buy really cheap ass wine, it takes a lot more to get the job done.
Nah, I totally hear you.
Or maybe my tolerance for booze is going up, which is not a good thing. Anyway, so I wanted to show you guys some shit. Usually by the way, that was my attempt at comedy. So close as I'm ever gonna get to like living out my Shane Gillis fantasy. So I got a bunch of stuff that I pulled off my bookshelf. I've been meaning to do this for a while now, but Andrew always has comics, and I don't want to interrupt him because he's so passionate about it. But,
yeah, he's a loser.
Well, actually, no, he's like he's living my dream right now. But the thing is, I've got a ton. I didn't realize how many books I have, and a lot of really weird stuff that's not around anymore. Or some of the stuff I'm gonna tell you is. So can you gonna turn on my camera? Yes, this is me. Yes, I have a beard. Yes, I am in dire need of a haircut.
All right. Let me put you in solo layout.
Can you can I'm gonna present?
Yep, you're good. Okay.
Share screen, right?
What are you presenting just by holding something up?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. You can hold something up right now.
Oh, okay.
Just hold it up.
All right. Okay. Hold your fucking horses. So
you only share screen if you're sharing your screen.
Blow it out your ass, Avery. Anyway. Okay, so I got we're gonna start with stuff that you're probably more familiar with. I didn't realize just how many these are actually. I actually inherited these from my dad, who, as far as I know, was not a comic book fan, but apparently he was a Frank Miller fan. So we got.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that Sin City book is good.
Yeah, I gotta say I like I saw the movie before I read the books.
Oh, interesting.
And the second one not so good, but yeah, you look at it's not color, but I just like the aesthetic, how he managed to how it looks so cinematic.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pull off in a lot of comic books. And then you got Family Values. I actually haven't read this one yet. But
Family Values is pretty good. I like Family Values.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That yellow bastard. And what I like, and what I like about this one is that he actually, I like the way he actually does use color in this, but only in like a really sparse way. It's like that scene in Schindler's List, where Spielberg did the same thing with some of his, some of the characters in Schindler's List. So like, it was a black and white film, but some characters were like in like this weird Technicolor to kind of like show horrible contrast.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way he did that with this, and also, I think Jessica Alba did this a bit better. That's probably gonna get us banned.
Nancy Callahan.
We can talk about dismemberment and all that stuff, but you show a shot of tits, and basically YouTube shits the bed.
That's true.
All right, so moving on.
Actually, under certain contexts, they do allow nudity.
All right, well, let's find out what those are. So,
art, and medical.
So I was always a fan of the Dark Horse Conan the Barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
This is like number 1, The Frost Giant's Daughter. Mm-hmm. Kurt Busiek is the writer. Carrie Nord is the I believe is the artist.
Yeah.
No, it's Carrie Nord and Thomas Yates. I don't know who they are, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, they're good.
I always like this art. I like this art. I like this style of art. It's very high end, kind of like almost European and almost like European art book and style.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get these anymore, apparently. Only they're out.
Is Carrie Nord the one that got busted for grooming somebody?
I have no idea. You would know, but you would know better than I do. Not that you engage in that sort of stuff. You just know more about comic book artists than I do. Although you never can tell with some of the people on the internet. For all I know, Avery's actually like a 70-year-old guy in Belarus. I'm talking through like a vocalizer while he's while he's smuggling heroin on the dark web. You never can tell.
If you want to win, try heroin.
Okay, this was
Look
actually
that song up. It's hysterical.
So this is actually the one of my favorites. So when Disney bought bought Lucasfilm, and they basically killed the old extended universe, and that was painful for me because as someone who grew up in the 90s, the EU was extended universe was Star Wars. I mean, the movies were the movies are the movies, but it was the comic books, the novels, the radio dramas even. That was Star Wars to me. The computer games, but mostly the comics. And this one is actually, it takes place like 200 years after the movies, and it's about Luke Skywalker's great grandson.
Oh wow!
And so the funny thing is that Lucasfilm was actually because they basically defecated themselves so much. Oh, it's written by John Ostrander and Jan de Surma, with pencils by Jan de Surma. I'm not familiar with the name, but I'm sure he's pretty good. Because I like this.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah, so they're actually taking a lot of stuff from the EU and putting it into like into the new continuity. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, at this point, Star Wars is pretty much dead. I mean, I'm like the new show they got coming out, The Acolyte. Never mind, I don't know if it's good or bad. All I know is that no one really seems to care. I mean, even like the internet freak out guys, the guys who like, if you make Luke Skywalker's hair color like darker than it should be, they start their hair goes on fire. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're not talking about it. I mean, you would think that they would at least do a couple of videos just to shit on it. They don't care. Which tells you all you know about Star Wars. Even the people who hate it don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's a big problem. I think. I think people are just apoplectic by now. They're just like whatever.
Anyway, this is another one. This is another gem from the old EU, the marriage of Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade. And can I just say, if anyone from Lucasfilm was watching, first of all, do better. And second, if you want to bring back the old fans, recast Luke Skywalker with an actual life with a younger actor, because Mark Hamill turned out to be a left-wing douche, and bring in Mara Jade, and I guarantee the Disney Plus site will crash from all the new subs. Although I gotta say, I didn't like I like the story, but the art in this isn't that good. I mean, it's very basic. It's I can't seem to find the there it is on the front page. It's Michael Stackpole, who's like basically like a pack raider, and Robert Teranishi. I have no idea who that is. So
no, I don't know.
Okay, more Star Wars Legacy.
Well, you got a big collection, huh?
I was surprised. I didn't realize I had. I thought I got rid of all this stuff. I thought, but and believe it or not, this is only the beginning of the magical treasures I'm going to show. But okay. after the next couple of things, it's going to be a lot less comic book related. So this is like the only one that ever came out from Zenescope Entertainment that I actually liked. Now, if you don't know who Zenescope is, well, you probably do. I mean, if you go to any con, they always have a booth there.
Oh, yeah, Zenescope is awesome.
And they always have these they're basically horror comics, but the covers are always these like fairy tale characters like Cinderella, Snow White, so on. But they're basically done as pinups. The covers are always really good. The inside art, not so much. This one's actually really good though. First off, the thing is, I don't like horror. I mean, I know there are a lot of people who are fans of it. I can't stand horror. Horror film comes on, I change the channel, I fall asleep. I just find them boring and stupid, mostly boring.
Okay.
So I don't like horror comics because, again, I don't find them scary. I just find them boring. But this one's an old-fashioned, good old-fashioned adventure comic. And I just like the way they draw the female characters. You don't see this like with modern comics anymore. It's just all that body positivity bullshit. Doesn't work, This it's like it's an actual fantasy, which is what I want out of a comic book,
Hot chicks.
I'm a 47-year-old guy who lives with 4 cats. This is as close as I'm going to get to the real thing, okay? Pity me. And this is one that I actually picked this up at New York Comic Con like 10 years ago. It was like these two guys who were selling this weird independent comic. It's actually signed, called Sky Pirates of Valandor, by Everett Soares and Brian Brindley. I mean, it's basically got a giant man bear with a pump action shotgun. So, what's not to like, right?
Man bears are fine with me.
Yeah, I don't think it went anywhere because I never heard from these guys. I never heard any more about these guys. All right, so much for the comic books. Now we're getting to the stuff that I actually care about, which are actual books, because I'm a writer. And anyway, so we're going to start with, the TV.
Shogun.
Good. The book is a lot better.
Oh yeah.
It is. Although the paperback clocks in at about 1,152 pages. So
such a good book. I want to go back and reread it after watching the series, which I was really disappointed by the last episode.
And this is actually something I was surprised to find. I thought I got rid of this actually. So you guys remember a few months ago, a year ago, Lucasfilm put out like a sequel to Willow, the movie from the night, which honestly never made a whole lot of sense to me because no one under the age of 45 even remembers that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for my age, it was like a big part of our childhood. I mean, that was like Mad Mardigan, what's not to like? But but the thing is, unlike Star Wars, it never really went anywhere. I mean, they didn't really franchise it. It was just a movie. There's maybe a few action figures, and then it just kind of, became something that was on TNT late at night, basically. So I never understood why they would bother to make a sequel, and B, they would basically make it as a teenage lesbian romance. Which, if your thing, great, more power to you. But for that particular show, if you're making a sequel, consider who the audience is going to be, and plan accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that there actually was an earlier sequel to it. George Lucas and Chris Claremont wrote a couple of books about the further adventures of Elora Danan and Willow Ufgood.
I didn't know that.
No one did. This came out like in the 90s. I mean, this is like after Claremont left X-Men. He left Marvel, and yeah, it came out in 95. Yeah, 1995. This is like my senior. I got this my senior year in high school, actually. I think these are way out of print. I think you can probably get them on Amazon now and like for Kindle, but for a long time they just weren't around. I know that the TV show didn't reference them at all. And I remember reading this because Claremont, after he left X-Men, he basically, because he's not an artist, he's a writer. He can't draw to save his life apparently. And so after he left, he basically poured all his energies into like writing novels, and basically like being a writer for hire. And I get the feeling that this is like Willow was actually like George Lucas's own personal world.
That's pretty cool.
It is very cool. Now, okay. So, and this is actually an interesting one. You may wonder why this book here is on this this web stream. Twilight. Well, I got a couple interesting stories about this actually. Well, and also like a couple of insights. First of all, I was at a con, and I saw that among the panels that were available, the lady whose hands these are was actually like signing autographs. Like the actual hand model for the original cover of Twilight, and there was a line.
Surprise me. Yeah.
No,
I was a hand model.
Yeah.
Were you really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the thing is, though, is that I reread it, and look, it is what it is. It's a teenage vampire romance. And the thing is that Stephenie Meyers, she's kind of an inspiration to me because she wasn't a professional writer. She wrote this because she needed to get a new engine for her family's minivan, and the rest is history. And when it came out, it was a big thing. Like, and you remember, like, first off, it kicked off the whole like early 2000s vampire craze.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you remember like back in the day, there was like every other show was about vampires. And not like Nosferatu, disheveled, the original version of the vampire, which is basically like a wizened, undead, blood-sucking maniac. But kind of like the more like the doomed romantic Byronic hero, and that had been around long before this came around. That was like Anne Rice was the one who really kind of worked that out as far as books go. Although you can make the argument even further that the vampire as sexy hero came about in the 60s and 50s with Christopher Lee, who got a start as an actor basically playing Count Dracula for the old Hammer film franchise. He was really good at it too. I mean, it's low production value, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a lot of respect for her as a writer because she knows what her audience wants, and she's not afraid to give it to them. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to do nowadays. They got to feel they got to be contrarian. And be contrarian works. I mean, George R. Martin, Game of Thrones, the original series works because he's a contrarian about his characters. He's willing to kill them off, but there's something to be said for someone who just like wants to tell a good story, and
Mm-hmm.
may not be your cup of tea, but this is a pretty good story. I mean, it's sold a lot. Here's another one. Breaking Dawn. Has like one of the dumbest endings of any book you can ever read, though. I mean, she didn't really stick the landing there.
Did she do a lot of books outside of Twilight?
She did actually. After this, she wrote a series of basically about an alien invasion. I forget what it's called, but it was made into a movie. Didn't do as well. And then I think she also did a movie like basically like she did what J.K. Rowling did. Excuse me, got a powder my nose. So J.K. Rowling, after she finished up with Harry Potter, and before she basically became like a pariah among the glittering elite in Britain for the manifest crime of saying what she thought, which you can't really do nowadays.
Yeah.
She has a pen name as I think John Galbraith or something like that, and she basically writes like a bunch of really violent techno thrillers. Totally opposite of what Harry Potter's like. And I think Myers did sort of the same thing. She wrote a book about a woman whose specialty is poisoning people for the CIA. And it's a romantic story, but it's like pretty bloody. I haven't read it, but I heard it's pretty good. I don't know if she's done anything else recently because I haven't really been paying attention. But I will say this also: unlike some other authors, when the series ended, she didn't try and cash in on it. Like the temptation with a series like that is, it's a moneymaker. It's got an audience. It's got an audience. You want to keep riding that horse till it dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't do that. I mean, she wrote the book. She wrote like one other book about it, which is basically a rewrite of the original novel from like Edward's point of view, and she hasn't really done anything with it since. And I've heard rumors about like a Twilight reboot, but I don't know. I got a lot of respect for that. For someone who knows when it's time to just walk away. It's go out on top. It's good the way it was. I mean, it's there are a lot of authors who, once they get a really good series, something that they know is going to sell, they basically keep basically pulling that handle and feathering that golden goose until long past the point where it's clearly run out of steam. Because like Robert Jordan did that. That actually happened to L. Frank Baum, the guy who created the Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 13 Wizard of Oz novels that he wrote, because mainly because, and not to mention, and that's just the ones he wrote. There's actually a whole other, and Doc, you can ask your wife about this. In the Soviet Union, there was a Soviet author, a Russian author, who basically, because of the Soviet Union, they didn't respect American copyright, wrote a whole bunch of Russian Wizard of Oz novels.
Yep.
And there's generations of Russian kids reading that, and it's totally different from what
she says. They're way better.
Yeah, well, the problem was that Baum. He wrote the first novel, and it was actually a political satire of the time. I mean, today it's just a kid's story. But if you were around in, like, say 1910 when it first came out or wherever, and you read it, you would get immediately that a lot of the characters that in the book are actually like ESPYs for political and social figures in turn of the century America, around 1900. Of course, today it's just like no one really remembers the book. They just remember the movie. And he wrote like 13 other novels, including one where a boy turns into a girl. It gets weirder than that. But the thing is that apparently he hated writing Oz books. He's like, to him, this is what he wanted to be like a serious writer. And to him, like the Wizard of Oz, it was just kind of like this thing he did for a lark, and it turned out to be the biggest thing in the world. And nothing he ever did really made money, so he had to keep going back to that well. And if you read the later books, and I read them when I was a kid, you could tell he was just basically going through the motions. It was the same thing that happened with Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. They were the only stories he wrote that people would read. And that's why he ended up killing off Sherlock Holmes after a while, because he just couldn't take it anymore. He went back to it eventually, but only after he had success with other writers. I've never read the Russian versions of The Wizard of Oz, but I hear they're pretty good. I mean, Doc, if you could talk, maybe ask your wife about it, I guess.
Yeah, I will. She's explained to me the differences before, but I can't recall right now.
So this is actually the Sword of Shannara, and I just love the art on this. I mean, unfortunately, those bastards at Borders. You remember Borders? They put they put the sticker over like the art, but I just love that old school fantasy, that old school cover art. You don't see this anymore. I mean, you see it in like a lot of the older Dungeons and Dragons books as well. This is actually like one of the first fantasy series break big after the Lord of the Rings. So, a little bit of background story. If I'm boring you, let me know. So you had Tolkien. He wrote The Hobbit. He wrote the Lord of the Rings, and they came out in the 1950s, and they weren't actually bestsellers when they first came out because they were, what he and the other Inklings were doing, like C.S. Lewis and a bunch of other guys who were meeting in Oxford, was really ahead of their time, and it was really seen as kind of like an art, kind of like an advanced avant-garde art thing, which is kind of weird from a guy who was like a really basically crusty old Oxford done. It wasn't until the 60s came around and the hippies got into it. I mean, like half the songs on Led Zeppelin albums are basically like about Lord of the Rings because apparently Robert Plant was a big fan of it. And as the story goes, is that after the 60s, Tolkien, who's basically this really conservative, old school Catholic Oxford Don, like tweed suit wearing, he would get really annoyed because all these hippies would show up at his door asking him to be their guru. Yeah. So, but anyway, Terry Brooks apparently, as I understand it, I could be totally wrong about this, or I might be thinking about someone else entirely, but the Sword of Shannara itself was basically a ripoff of like the Lord of the Rings. It's elves, dwarves, and so on. Finding a magic MacGuffin against the evil Dark Lord. I think he may have actually asked the Tolkien estate if he could write a sequel to the Lord of the Rings. They said no, so he just wrote his own stuff. Now, later in later books, he actually after this he really goes out of his way to kind of like make his world unique. And the later books are actually a lot better. They're more interesting. They're also a lot darker. And the reason I mention this is because they're actually after the Lord of the Rings movies came out, there was a big fantasy boom. It's still going. I mean, it's still going on to a certain extent, but people saw there's money in those geeky hills. So you began seeing a whole bunch of like fantasy themed shows on TV, and there was something called the Shannara Chronicles on MTV of all places. It was not good. It was actually really bad. It was like hipster fantasy, but really low budget. And the idea behind it is that the world they were in is actually our world, but like thousands of years in the future after like a nuclear apocalypse, and elves, dwarves, etc. are basically like human mutations. It works in the novel. That didn't really work on TV. Another vampire novel. I basically bought this because I like the cover. I mean, what's not to like about the cover, right? I think
That's
I
awesome.
I may have met that girl once. But yeah, Rochelle Mead. It's again same thing. After Twilight came out, there was a big vampire boom. I mean, you got the Vampire Diaries on the CW and all the spinoffs from that. True Blood, and the literary world is like, this is right around the time actually when self-publishing first came around. I was in that. I was writing books. I've been like writing novels for like 10 years before that, but no one would give me the time of day, so I started putting them out myself, and no one really cared. But that's a whole other thing. But this is like when like Kindle first came out, and Amazon basically said if you have a book to publish it here. And I swear, like, half the books published were all like romances because most readers are female, and romance is a big genre. It's the biggest genre of all, basically. And half of the romances were either vampire novels, werewolf novels, vampire werewolf novels,
Right.
It's the thing about self-pubbing is that very quickly, like a lot of the kind of like the big genres that publishing companies need to use disappear, and they became a lot more specific. You began getting like things like homosexual vampire romances, shifter romances, and so on and so forth. Dinosaur sex novels, which are a thing, believe it or not. I'm not sure who reads them, and I'm not really sure I want to know. But yeah, that's the thing is that the thing is that when there are no gatekeepers, you get a flood tide of shit, but you also get people who are able to find their audience, to find like really specific micro audiences, because you know, it used to be that if you had like you had these really specific tastes about what you wanted to read or listen to,
Mhm.
maybe if you're lucky, that there'd be like one or two guys who would put something out. Like for example, if you're really into like super gothic metal, super gothic music, you could find the Cure.
Mhm.
If you wanted something even heavier than the Cure, there were like there's like Bauhaus or some weird German bands that maybe put out an album, but there wasn't a whole lot else out there. Now all of a sudden, if you could find if there's a genre that had an audience large enough to support it,
Mhm.
there'd be stuff written for it.
Yeah, MK says the TV series totally sold it as Lord of the Rings,
Yeah, and it wasn't. It
and then
really,
he says it even had John Rhys Davies. Maybe that's why it was so Lord of the Rings ish.
yeah, he was really phoning it in there. You could tell. I mean, it's like Rosamund Pike in the Wheel of Time series on Amazon. Yeah, she's just honestly, you can just see this thing. You can almost see like the words floating in her head, the things I have to do for a paycheck. But but yeah, so yeah, there was like a whole boom of of like the whole vampire boom took off. Then it got pretty ridiculous near the end. I mean, it's like every other book, every other show was vampire related. Vampire Academy was okay, I guess. I mean, it sold well. There was a movie version made of it. It flopped. It was actually it's actually starring Zoe Deutsch of all things. Like Leah Thompson's daughter. She was
Oh, okay.
yeah. Um, and the thing is that this is also when there was kind of a reaction to that eventually in the end, where you had like I think Guillermo del Toro did a vampire show for I think FX, and it was like really old school horror. I mean, like really real body horror stuff. But the thing is though is that I think that well eventually ran dry. I mean, people grew up. Let's see a few other things, and then I'm gonna. But
I got some. Yeah, I got some artwork and stuff we can show too.
All right. Well, I'm almost done here.
No, you're good. You're good.
So the last three things are a couple of rare treasures. I mean, you don't see these around anymore, but they're good. I mean, but so the Amtrak Wars.
What was that?
That's a good question. So this is like this really obscure sci-fi series. Basically, the idea is that it takes place something like 2,000 years in the future, after a nuclear war, and essentially, among other things, the USA is most of the USA is essentially kind of like a post-nuclear wasteland, populated by essentially mutated mutants who have trouble remembering stuff, but they also have magic. But and underneath Texas is this neo-fascist genetic state where everyone there is literally like the genetic offspring of like the president. Like he literally like is the father of everyone. I mean, it's obviously done like via genetic engineering, and they exist in this basically it's this like militaristic state, and the whole idea is that they're basically going up on the surface, in these essentially steam powered wagon trains, where they're basically trying to commit genocide against all the people living on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And later books go on to describe how the East Coast is basically Japan. So the story is that everyone in Japan got into a boat, sailed all the way around the world, ended up on the East Coast, and basically recreated, like Tokugawa era Japan with samurai on the East Coast. Except everybody's bald for some reason, so they all wear wigs.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a weird story. I know I was never able to find the last novel, but I got all the others. It's a bit weird, but and these are actually these particular books like these, like basically these are actually put out by this one if you look at the put out by TSR, the old the original publishers of Dungeons and Dragons, and this one's put up by by Wizards, but the TSR was smart. They realized, they began publishing novels very early on, and those novels, I mean, they don't get a lot of respect because they are what they are. They're basically like hack stuff, but a lot of them are really good. And like the Dragonlance novels, like Dragons of well, I forget the titles. They were the things that made me want to write fantasy. I mean, not Lord of the Rings. I read that later. But Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman's like Dragons of like Spring Dawning and Twilight and Winter or whatever. I like, that's what made me want to write and it also made me want to play D&D. But I actually read the novels first, then I did when I was a kid. Then I started playing D&D in high school, and that's all she wrote, boys. I can pull out more stuff, but my throat's getting dry, and I need to turn the AC back on, so I'm gonna have to go mute again. So
all right. Well,
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
I hope that was interesting.
No, it was interesting, man. I love, it's such a different area. I wish I knew more about it. I used to read a little bit of like fantasy novels, but comics got me so hard that it was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, like I said, I mean, I was surprised to find those. I got more stuff, and next time Andrew's away, we can do this again. But
yeah, because he doesn't let us talk. That's why.
Well, it's good. It's good to have someone who can do most of the talking.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, it's just, see, I miss that old school comic style when they actually because I don't want to read comics as social commentary. I want to read them to escape, and I want my heroes to look like heroes. I want my heroines to look like babes. And if that if that makes me a sexist Neanderthal, then guilty as charged. You know what?
Yeah.
I apologize for nothing.
No, man, because so that's actually a brilliant segue, because this is actually something we were talking about this week. One of the things that I've been working on or working towards is, I've been working on this book for WAGMI and experimenting with some styles as I'm drawing and all this kind of stuff. And it's always a challenge because as an artist, like there are two different kind of camps in the comic art world. And Avery, you can totally tell me if I'm off base here, but there's like artists who are fan favorites, and then there are artists who are like artists, like the artist favorites.
Yeah.
Right. Very, very, very few can be both. Mike Mignola from Hellboy is probably one of the few people that I can say is both. And I think a lot of that, and I was thinking about this, I actually think a lot of that has to do with the subject matter, because if Mike Mignola was drawing an interpretation of the Bible, I don't think his shit would be that popular.
I don't know, man.
No.
I'd read it.
If he was still working for Marvel and DC and hadn't done Hellboy, which is his, everything about Hellboy is tailored to play to his strengths and none of his weaknesses.
Right.
That's one of the hard things about being an independent artist, is because he can write also. He doesn't have to look for a writer to work with. Because when you're an artist, most writers are just looking for an art monkey to put their vision to the page, and aren't thinking about writing for their artist to get the best, like play to your artist's strengths. And most writers don't do that.
Right. That's totally true.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things, and Avery and I were talking about this too, is like, because of that, one of the things that's challenging is like, as I'm drawing this book, I'm drawing kind of like a detailed, like, I guess you could call it like more of a fan favorite style. Like I'm really kind of going after that. Like traditional superhero, like straight up old school superhero. And some of the guys that I look at are like master storytellers, because that's what I'm into, right? Like I understand layout and design, and I understand story and pacing. And so when I see an artist who does story and pacing really well at a master level, I want to like learn that and kind of incorporate that in the work. The challenge, of course, is that the artists who are master storytellers tend to draw looser or draw with less. That's kind of a sign of being a good storyteller, is when you sort of pare it down to its core, draw what the focus is, and cut out everything else and just like draw the shit out of what's left. Right. And so I was talking to Avery because I was like, man, maybe on this next thing I should go a little more simple and kind of break it down more. This guy does like a page a day. He's like a master at the style. And we ended up talking about like popularity, and Avery got me thinking again, because one of the things that we were so attracted to in the 90s, one of the things that made 90s comics so amazing was its extreme nature, right? Like everything, like the art style, like was the art style was the most dramatic and the most intense, and every shot was at the most dramatic angle at the most dramatic moment, right? And there's some people that mastered that as well, and they're still to this day big names. Does this make sense? Like, Avery, does this? Do you remember this?
Yes. Yeah.
You agree with this?
I absolutely agree. That's what made Jim Lee pop, dude. Is that anchor image he put on every page.
Mm-hmm.
And his storytelling was good enough, especially Uncanny X-Men. His Uncanny X-Men was phenomenal. The storytelling was good enough, and he would put that anchor image on every page that just popped at you. That one panel that just made you go, holy shit.
Yeah. And I was looking at this and I was thinking about our conversation here, and I think I realized something. And because one of the things that's always haunted me is that, so we're all familiar, most of us are familiar with Rob Liefeld, and we'll look at his art here in just a second.
Of course.
I've never been a fan of his art. However, I mean, of course, he gets mad respect. He's a pro and he's good, and you know, whatever. I have never really had a problem, other than anatomical stuff. I've never had a problem with Rob Liefeld at all. I bought all the books. The fascinating thing, though, is, and the thing that's driven me nuts, is while I was never hardcore into his artwork, and I didn't know it when I bought it, but over the years, and now listening back to finding interviews of Rob, it turns out that a couple of my all-time favorite books, specifically X-Force #8, which is actually drawn by Mike Mignola, which we could probably look at, and the Cable 2-issue limited series, which was drawn by John Romita Jr., are some of my all-time favorite. Those 3 books, like, I don't know what it is. They're just so fucking good. And it turns out that what they have in common is that Rob Liefeld did the layouts for them. So even though Mike Mignola drew one and John Romita Jr. drew the other, Liefeld basically did the rough storyboards. And it got me really thinking, there's got to be something about Rob Liefeld's work that I like, because this is like, yeah, I love John Romita Jr. and I love Mignola, but like the thing that binds them both is Rob Liefeld, right? And so I started just last night and the night before, when Avery and I were talking, I started looking at some Rob Liefeld books, and I think I kind of cracked something and I want to share. So I'm going to share. Here's X-Force. So this is X-Force #1. This is probably the book he's most famous for, I guess.
Sold millions.
Sold millions. This is like the top, the second second
Yeah.
highest selling comic of all time, right after
Yeah.
X-Men #1.
Yep.
Jim Lee's X-Men #1. So it's a double page spread, whatever. And I was looking at it, and I started removing. MK says, "Ha, I have that one. Yep, I remember it well." Yeah, I started. Let me make it just a little bit bigger here on screen. There we go. So I stopped looking at the artwork, like the style. Again, hindsight being what it is, he was like 23. Like, he was super young doing these books, like unbelievably young. So kudos to him, you know. But yeah, I stopped looking at the art style and instead started looking at the composition. And certainly some of the compositions I can't stand. Like, he does this overhead shot that I just annoys the shit out of me. But other than that, like, what I did notice is that every panel fits that bill that Avery was talking about. Again, ignoring the anatomy and the actual style. Every page and every character is at their most dynamic pose, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're at their most dynamic point. Like, you can't get more action packed than this butt shot of Farrell jumping this way, right? Like, the Cable up here is like spread so big, pointing, you know, firing a weapon or something. Like, and I really started to look at this as just imagining it as a rough composition. And I started realizing how much fun this guy was having, because he's only drawing what he wants to draw, right? These are just 3 poses, the most dynamic poses he could think of for that shot. I mean, he's not drawing backgrounds. These are just abstract shapes that kind of go in perspective, right? But every single panel is just like the most extreme panel it could possibly be, right? And I started to enjoy it. I mean, again, it's really hard for me not to look at the artwork because it's a freaking comic book. But like, I started to kind of see, like, the only problem I ever had with Liefeld is that he was the one drawing the book. Like, if this had been a script for John Romita Jr., I'm sure it would have been my favorite comic. If Mike Mignola drew this, like, I would have loved this book as well, right? And just to show you kind of this interpretation, like, let's really quick, I'm going to scroll up or scroll down. I think I can just scroll up with it. Do this, and I'm going to go to my all-time favorite book issue. And again, I don't know why, it's just something that hit me viscerally as a kid. X-Force #8. So Rob Liefeld cover. Okay, so there's your Rob Liefeld stuff. In fact, he would kind of redraw this for X-Force #1, or for Youngblood #1, right? It's very similar layout. And he drew the first page. And of course, by this time, he's just adding so much detail, it's a little ridiculous. But whatever. And then boom, here we are with Mike Mignola, who's just a phenomenal illustrator, and of course, like, a legend now. But now again, Rob Liefeld is right there in the credits for plot and framing sequence art. Like, he literally sketched out these panels. So this is a Rob Liefeld story drawn and refined by Mike Mignola. And you can kind of see it. Like, you can kind of see how this is like a shot that Rob Liefeld would draw, right? But in a different artist's hands, it's just elegant. Am I right?
Yeah.
You kind of see that?
I loved this issue too. Fans hated it, but I loved it. I was hoping Mike Mignola was going to be the new regular artist.
I know. Me too. Fans hated it because they liked Rob Liefeld. But
yeah,
you can see, like, the bad guys flying out, like, that's 100% Rob Liefeld drawing that. And look at this. This page has 4 panels. It's like a tiny little setup panel and a giant cable head over here, right? Like, that's 100% Rob Liefeld. And now that I'm older and I know that Rob Liefeld drew it, I totally see it. But I never knew that. I had no clue.
Yeah, Rob did the layouts.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, oh, it just looks like a Mike Mignola book. And so I've really started, again, this page, because it's a Rob Liefeld layout book, there's nothing here. I mean, you've got your characters, but there's no perspective. You've got a cool looking gun, and you've got some blasts, and then you've got a close up, right?
Mhm.
And so I got to see the joy in this guy's work. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, look at him climbing the wall. Just so fucking cool. I love this book so much, dude. This book inspired the hell out of me. After this book, I did a Domino sample pages.
Like if Mike Mignola is drawing Hellboy, he's not going to draw Hellboy scaling a wall at that angle.
Right.
Like, he's not going to draw that.
Man, he's just adding his own flair to it, obviously, because he's
Yeah.
he's Mike Mignola. And so I was like, oh, well, let me look. So I went back and I started looking. I looked at Youngblood, which of course is all Rob. And so is X-Force, because at this point, he was just drawing his own shit, right? And inking his own stuff. And what's fascinating is I said, okay, well, this is still kind of in that X-Force style. He's inking and drawing his own work, and it's very Rob Liefeld. Again, I don't. Oh, you know what? It's not even. Sorry, I don't know why it didn't. This didn't share the. There we go. So at this point, he's inking his own stuff, and it is what it is. But even here, you can still see everything is super dynamic, and every drawing is dynamic, every panel is dynamic. Even if nothing makes sense, it's really obvious that he's kind of mastered this art of just like crazy dynamicism, right? Like, none of it makes an anatomical sense at all. But like, it is really engaging, right? And I was like, oh shit, you know what I want to do is what about Rob being inked by other people? And so then I looked at his early New Mutant stuff. Well, this is just an example. So he inked the cover. He did the cover, but this was a guy. The inker on here was, I don't even remember his name. Hilary Barta. And what Barta was doing, and a lot of these inkers early on were doing, was trying to make his shit more realistic. Like, that's Rob Liefeld, but that is an inker taking, like, trying to push this young 19-year-old stuff into anatomical, like, correction, right? Like, that's Rob Liefeld, but that actually looks like a better Rob Liefeld than what he would do later on, right? Less extreme, less dynamic. Like, that actually looks pretty dope, and almost anatomically correct. Almost Jim Lee-ish, right?
Very almost Art Adams-ish.
Almost Art Adams-ish, yeah. And that's all it's got to be just the inker, right?
Yeah, that's the inker.
100%. But again, like, there's 3 panels on this page because he knows what people want to see. So it's Wolverine punching Cable punching Wolverine, and then they're just like standoff. There's no background or anything really interesting in there. And so yeah, I just realized his storytelling is super simple. Like, he's not focused on backgrounds, he's not focused on like traditional storytelling or anything. And I don't know, my thing just froze. I don't know why it's not scrolling. But let me try to. Yeah, I don't know why it froze. It won't let me scroll. But like, oh, it won't let me do anything. Cool. All right, guys.
Cool.
That was it. I can't stop sharing, and I can't do much.
I get it. I get what you're saying, though. His layouts, his layout's cool. Like the flow with his panels. Like, there's like those 3 panels: punch, and then it was just like the 2 silhouettes, but they're popping up into the next panel. He has a lot of stuff that's jumping out and crossing into panels, and the flow is kind of cool. I don't know, man. His anatomy's right, but I totally feel what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess my point of all this is like, you know, I as someone like with a background in animation and storytelling and storyboards and all that kind of stuff, like my instinct is to tell the best story I possibly can. And the crazy thing is, to do that, you're going to look at, like, if you want to really know how to tell a beautiful story, you're going to look at the classic artists from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like those comic artists were brilliant, but their method for telling a story, a lot of that had to do with less is more. Like, that was the number one rule. You have to churn out the page. You got to get done at the deadline. Less is more. So, you know, find out what you need to draw, and then like put the rest in shadow, or you know, crop it in more, or just like figure out a way to hide it. And the 90s guys did away with all of that, and they said, well, no one, you know, story's cool and all, but what people want to see is like people beating the shit out of each other and extreme close-ups and details and all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, McFarlane proved it, right? McFarlane proved it with Amazing Spider-Man, and Hulk, really, even before that. Like, that just, like, it wasn't about great art even. It was just about like crazy. It was the extremeness of the style and the coolness of the shot.
Yeah, it's like there was a couple poses there, and I was like, this looks how I would have posed an action figure if I was playing with it when I was a kid. Right. Or like, imagine the opening of any Saturday morning cartoon, like G.I. Joe. It's perspective, you know, they're all running up and it's like this big thing, you know, and they're like, and the G.I. Joe thing comes, or like anything where it's just like, it's all like hard, fast, like really cool dynamic shots. And I see what you're saying, where he like just recreates that peak energy type of stuff throughout.
For sure. And one of the things that was kind of driving me nuts, or I was having a trouble, you know, just as a challenge that I've been going through, is trying to tell the best story I possibly can, and also trying to draw the best illustration I can, right? Like the craziest stuff. And of course you always should. I'm not saying don't do that, but like I'm on the last 4 pages of drawing, and fortunately it's not like big story pages. It's like a battle scene and a giant group shot, and then kind of like a landing scene. And I decided to treat, from a storytelling perspective, to kind of pull from, I mean, it's still my style drawing wise, but I'm pulling from Liefeld in terms of like, hey, you got a bunch of people jumping out of a jet. Put the jet in the background and just show the people. Like, don't worry about like the clouds and the city behind it and the perspective and all of that kind of stuff. And like, oh, when they land, like people don't need to see, like, I have a shot of the WAGMI character Talos like kind of landing in like this a power pose, right? And like, people don't need to see all the background stuff to show the dude in a cool pose and draw the shit out of it. And people are going to be happy. You know what I mean? And so I'm kind of, I think, I mean, certainly for the rest of the WAGMI book, and I think maybe even for AF, like, and when we start doing our comic right after this, I think I might try kind of to go in this, in not certainly more storytelling than Rob had, you know, because he was just like power shot. But like kind of like more towards this direction, where we're still having, like, you know, certainly have your establishing shot. Like Rob never never even had an establishing shot. You know, like he just goes medium shot, close up, action pose, with all this stuff. So certainly we can do a little more storytelling than that, but like not worrying so much about having like every single shot tell the exact perfect story. Like, just pick out what's cool about it, and like what's the you know, certainly what tells the story, but like what's the coolest shit in here, and just focus on that and cut. That's elimination. Like, eliminate all the other stuff. Like, if you have people at a restaurant and they start, you know, and then, you know, a bad guy crashes through the wall, show the restaurant, maybe a close up of two people eating, but you don't have to show the chairs they're sitting in or the layout of the restaurant again.
Right,
And then
right.
show the restaurant when the bad guy crashes through it, just to give a little bit of a relationship, and then cut all the backgrounds back out and just show people beating the crap out of each other. Right.
You know what I'm noticing, and I'm kind of actually glad that you got stuck on this panel or on this page here. And as I'm thinking back to some of his other stuff, the bottom panel with the lips, even the one above it, man. I really wonder if he has any influence in pop art, because that's pop art right there. Do you see it? The lips, the poses, the angles. That's pop art, and and all of that, and all of pop art. Well, clearly it's pop art, right? It's all like very stylized. It's got these certain angles. Same thing with like the backgrounds, like you're saying. Like that's not the important stuff. It's that splash of action.
Well,
right on the thing.
Lichtenstein stole all the stuff from comics anyway.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pop artists. But you know what? What's interesting that I also realized about this, Doc and Avery, like this is earlier New Mutants, and if you look at the New Mutants run, he had so this guy Barta was one of his inkers. He had Scott Williams, who was amazing inker on the covers. McFarlane inked some of his stuff.
Yeah.
In interiors, he had Barta, and he had Joe Rubinstein, who is a legendary inker, and that guy made his stuff look more realistic and kind of grounded a lot. And then he had Art T. Bear, who also kind of, if you look at the Art T. Bear inked version of Rob Liefeld, it was also more structured. And so Marvel was clearly feeding him inkers to find someone who could make him look better. Right. And yet when he had enough clout to do it on his own, he chose to do it himself and make it even more extreme than this is. Like when he started inking his own stuff, that's when the forearms were basically just like giant circles. Right. Like even crazier anatomy where you're just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, well, why
the hairiest arms in all of comics?
Yeah, totally. My point is like, he was like the number two, he was like number 3. It was like Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld. So he was like he was the youngest by far of all of them. So he was he was a hot kid who at that level could have had anyone he wanted. And instead of going out and saying, hey, who makes me look good is this inker.
Right.
Like Jim Lee did. Jim Lee has Scott Williams, right? Instead of picking an inker, he chose to do it himself, even though he had these inkers who made him look more solid, more realistic, more grounded in kind of reality. He went the whole opposite way and pushed it, to Avery's point, to the extreme. I mean, he did have a company later on called Extreme Studios, which makes sense. And I've been really thinking about this, and I'm realizing that these things are choices, right? Like it's not like default, oh well, I can't do anything else. Like he's making choices. So I find it really interesting. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's cool. It's fun to bag on him, but he definitely has like a style, man. And I get what you're saying about like kind of taking that and finding a middle ground. I'm
just saying, like the minute you take these layouts and you put any other artist on it, it becomes a dope fucking book. And so there's obviously something at an atomic level in his work that is really good.
Yeah.
And I think it's his style, his lack of drawing ability when he was this age, that kind of pushed people away a little bit, or like people that weren't fans, I guess. But there's clearly something there because he was the number 3 artist. So if it's not the drawing ability, then it's got to be, there's an atomic storytelling element that I feel like I need to study a little bit. Anyway, that's what I got.
Pretty cool, man.
15-year-old boys thought this was awesome.
Shit, we're still looking at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And Andrew's not even here with his band. All his 15-year-old boys are on vacation.
Oh,
Oh.
oh no.
Oh, come on.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll let me share, but I did have a couple of quick things if it's possible.
Yeah, can Dusty might have so I can't do anything.
Oh, you're totally stuck.
I'm completely frozen. But StreamYard still works. I just can't. None of the buttons work. I can't click on anything. So
Well, if not, it's whatever. It was
Dusty,
just some
can you
weird
stop
Russian
sharing?
animation.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really
what-
cool
Dusty,
from the
Dusty can help
70s.
with that.
What do you want from me?
Can you? So I can't click any button right now. StreamYard works, but basically my system is totally frozen for some reason.
Okay.
So can you stop sharing this image and to see if Doc wants to share something?
I don't know how to do that.
You just go to the 3 dots.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Make sure the
Yeah.
audio is on. Hold on. So there's this couple things, and just a couple random things from Twitter I saw while I was scrolling around too. Oh, because other participants will hear themselves. Oh, but I'm not on the Chrome tab. Well, it's just gonna have to do whatever. That's fine. Can you pop me up there, Dusty?
Yeah.
So there's this this is a account that I love following. It's just really just a lot of weird stuff. But they had posted some, I was talking about some Russian animation before and how cool it was, but it didn't really, they're like the Winnie the Pooh thing. It's funny, but it's for kids, right? But not just animation. I don't know what, like, culturally, this isn't it here. I'm going to scroll down. Like, in the Soviet Union, it's so weird. It's like somewhere, even though they're like behind the Iron Curtain, right? Something made it through. Something made it through that these animators just make some of their like music and shit like that from the time, just like some of the wildest shit. So first, check this out.
We can't hear it.
Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Somebody got some drugs at some point in Russia. It's all I'm saying. Like, but they have like their own like synths that they made, and it's like they picked up enough culture, and like just like with the like how Zach was talking about with the Wizard of Oz or Winnie the Pooh or whatever. Like whatever they do, they like absorb it and make their own thing. All right, check this out. This is from 1973.
Oh wow.
Вот беда, не видел чуда. Так пойди и посмотри. Березка.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's crazy, man.
It's super
That's wild.
abstract.
It's super abstract. This is a weird commercial, but let's see. I think this one was cool too.
И однажды вечером весь мир взволнован, мир шумит, тайгу упал метеорит. Простившись со столицей,
This might actually be from the same thing. I know it's the same animator. Like what the? I really want to know what this
So
actually
crazy.
is.
Yeah.
And then I think there was. I can't remember if this one was. Yeah, it's Russian too, but the box with the secret. Wow. Even their children's stuff is just like tripped out, bro.
Yeah, that is nuts. Oh wow.
But there's like a level of detail. Like if
it's really
if this was
detailed.
an American cartoon or something like that or anything else, they wouldn't take the time to draw that reflection like that.
No.
Like accurately on that cylinder. There's no way.
And all this stuff is exceptionally hard to draw.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at everything going on there. Like, how long would it take to draw that? To
A long
animate
time.
this?
Yeah. No, that's
this
not. That's
15
not.
second scene.
Yeah, that's a lot
Right?
of. That's a lot of work.
So it's really interesting to me. It's like, what about their culture plus this animation? I mean, considering that they were so closed off, what leaked through? What parts of just their general culture? And like, how weird is it was like, just like they get on this like so abstract, like super, super abstract level. And there's so many great examples of Russian animation, man. I mean,
Doc, actually, there's actually I think I might have a reason for that. I mean, there was actually a very long tradition of Russian artists being involved in, what was then called the avant-garde back in, in the early 1900s.
Oh yeah.
And during the revolution, what the fuck is that?
I'm just showing some other stuff while you're talking. Just
so during the revolution, there actually were a number of. Can you stop doing that? I can't.
Sorry. I'm trying to save time and go through all my stuff. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, Nightmare Generator. Good.
So there were a number of like cutting edge artists and avant-garde guys who were deeply involved with the Russian Revolution during the early days.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the propaganda posters that were out there back then, like there's a famous one which shows like a red wedge splitting like a white circle, and it's basically beat the whites with the red wedge. The White Army was the Tsarist supporters in the Civil War, and like a lot of the stuff was really cutting edge, and there was it wasn't just art; it was like sculpture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, what happened is that Lenin, when Stalin came to power, he had no use for any of that stuff, and most of those guys ended up dying ended up in Siberia.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for a while, Russia, for maybe 4 or 5 years, Russia was kind of on the cutting edge of art, and maybe that's.
Yeah, you're right.
That stuff never really dies. I mean,
you're absolutely right. And even before that, like we went to a couple museums in Moscow, and some of the paintings in there were the most. We're talking like classical realism type of stuff, but their ability to accurately do portraits on oil and lighting and highlights and blending of colors, it was some of the most impeccable, amazing art that I'd ever seen. And there was this one artist, and I can't remember his name. I'll ask my wife. Maybe I'll show some stuff the next time. He started out with ceramics, and then he has like a couple of these big, huge triptychs that he's made. And he was doing, before there was cubism, he had this style that was leading up to that. So but it was like a whole separate culture, like art culture, right? And their art and their literature and their sculpture and all that stuff is so robust, and it's beautiful, and it's people that you'd never know, you'd never hear about them. Of course, my wife knows all of them, right? Because they promoted that even still about learning about that. Really, really cool. Just a couple other things. Look at this cool Daredevil. Somebody did this. Some guy, who's going to do this? I don't know. Neo comic art. Kind of an interesting Daredevil.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
It kind of goes into what I was talking about, though. It's like the most extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how they extended the leg to like give the like dynamic action of the kick. Right. and he's just
Yep.
like these guys flying off the roof. He's about to get stabbed. Everyone's.
And
This
it's
is
also
very-
it's
Go ahead.
also very loose. Like
Yeah.
like Darren Warren Johnson does this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this
Uh,
kind of like perspective shift on the building here as it almost like
Fish eye.
eyes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is very cool. I'm going to follow this guy because I'm not right now. He's only got 600 followers.
Is that his art?
Oh, worked on some TMNT stuff with IDW. I was going to say this feels very TMNT right here, you know.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
But apparently, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, he's got 600 people. This was just a commission piece, he said. A couple more. This is someone I commented on some D&D thing, and I'm getting all this D&D stuff. But this person has some pretty cool sketches for like RPG art. I kind of like it. They're like, "Oops, more unfinished sketches," and I'm like, "Whatever, man. These are pretty slick. Looks pretty good." And then they got one more there. These guys are pretty cool. Some little orky troll dudes or whatever. Cool details. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to show that that animation on that Psychotronica site. It's a good feed. He's always got weird shit on there. It's really good.
Yeah.
Or he or
Yeah,
she
that was
or
awesome.
whoever it is.
That was awesome, man.
I like it.
I got unfrozen, so I'm like back. But yeah, I love it, man. It just goes to show you how much cool shit there is out there. Like it's really cool, man.
There's so much.
It really is just so much incredible stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like-
My artists feed on my Twitter is growing every day. I keep going on down rabbit holes and like follow like 3 degrees worth of artists, and I'm getting like cool stuff popping up on my feed all the time. Not just comics, just anything, digital art, whatever.
Mhm.
I've been
Loving
losing
it.
followers lately.
You've been
lost, like,
losing followers?
30.
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah, I think it has to do with drama, and I work
Oh,
for
yeah.
somebody.
Oh, I'll ask you that off air. I was gonna ask you about that.
This can't be real. The new Canadian Army logo? What the hell? Hold on a second. One more time. What is this?
Hold on. What is that?
I don't know. That autism. Yeah, this looks like a moose taking the world's biggest dump.
It does.
Supposedly, it's the Canadian Army logo. All right.
All right, go Canada. Love you guys. Oh. Well, guys, happy Friday. This has
Happy
been a pretty
Friday.
good Nerd Den. Who needs
Yeah,
Andrew?
man.
Screw that guy.
Yeah,
No, we look forward to having Andrew back.
yeah. He's probably naked in a hot tub on the top deck. Oh, he doesn't drink, does he?
No.
No.
Doesn't mean he won't be naked.
Doesn't mean he
in a
won't be
hot
naked
tub.
on the hot tub anyway.
Who needs pants? I mean, really, pants are.
Dude, they rent those cruise ships out. They'll charter those for like all nude, like private charters.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had a couple. We had like one of the big, like it was like a big. I mean, I wouldn't say LGBT. It was gay. It was all male gay one, and they asked the bartenders. They gave them the choice, like because we had we were all young. I mean, it wasn't me. I wasn't working in the like front of the house that time, but they're like. They have requested, and it's up to you if you just want to wear your pants and suspenders and a bow tie. Like, well, one of my buddies did because he's like, "Fuck it, man, I'm gonna get that money."
Get that tip. Get those tips. Get those tips, bro. Get those tips.
Yeah.
So funny. Well,
There's actually a big nude cruise that's about to leave from the port of Miami.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's funny. I'll be in the port of Miami next week.
I can't. Oh, really?
No,
Nice. Well, you know, I actually saw Andrew last Sunday when I went up to Jacksonville to the museum, whose name I'm not going to say because it's just going to be like a nonstop with really bad dick jokes.
Did you go to Cummer?
Yeah.
You went to the Cummer.
Yes. I went to the. I went to the museum with the name. If the people had that name today, would probably change it just to avoid all kinds of shit from like.
Yeah, just to stop Avery from like clowning them constantly.
Yeah,
it's actually a pretty good. It's actually a decent museum. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was okay. And it's got a really nice garden in the back. I like that. I like that stuff. And got to stare out at the beautiful St. Johns River and downtown Jacksonville, which is surprisingly built up. I was surprisingly built up. I felt right at home. But maybe reminded me of like New York or downtown Brooklyn, except it was hotter and a lot less crowded.
Yeah.
Although it was Sunday, so.
That's a museum, the Cummer?
Yeah, it's Jacksonville.
Yeah.
We have a
Yeah,
regional gas station
Coomer.
called Come and Go, but it's like KUM.
Oh, I can't imagine all the jokes that come out of that one. That sounds like a cut rate brothel.
Yeah. It's like you could only get like they aren't like right here, but you have to go to like we had friends in Omaha, and my friend would always stop and get lighters, and then he'd decorate them. He'd like very carefully cut out like pieces from an ad of a porno mag and then tape it to the other side. So you had a Come and Go lighter with a naked chick on it. Like we were bored, I guess, but that was his hobby. Like whatever, man. Your art is your art.
Yeah, dude, for real. Well, guys, awesome Friday. Happy Nerd Den. I hope you guys have a good weekend. And everybody else watching, MKKG, everybody else, love you guys. Yeah, and next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And yeah, I think Andrew will be back. We'll just have to tell him that. We'll either have to tell him that we totally missed him and this sucked without him, or we'll just have to be real and say that, yeah, it was actually a really good stream.
I got to figure out how to like custom order some of those tattoos and send them one.
Built would be awesome, dude.
Dude, I'm gonna look that up right now.
I would absolutely wear one.
I'm gonna look it up.
Andrew on my ass would be fucking great.
or just have that photo printed on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
You ever see that Ween album, Chocolate and Cheese, where it's like the girl,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that's kind of like a little parallel there.
We'll have to do that. We'll have to figure this out.
Custom temporary tattoos, bro. I already got it. I'm on it.
All right. Everybody, love you. Happy Friday. Happy Nerd Den. Take care. God bless. Peace out.